I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
Vita and Chip and Culpy. Happy birthday to
Sonia.
you.
We already sang.
That's what I said. I said, didn't we already sing to her?
Yeah.
You said no? I said, I thought we did. We sung to her.
Listening.
Surprise, surprise.
Is this the official video?
This is what she asked for.
Alright. Well, Sonia, if it was the official video and it got blocked, it's your affair.
Yep.
Freaking Rammstein.
Don't come crying us. Oh yeah, I still have to re-upload that.
Yep.
Ugh.
You gotta find a crappier version of Alterman. Napalm death, suffer the children.
Yep.
It should be interesting. Harmony corruption from the record it was in 1990. It should be interesting. If you want a shirt, check out the thingy at the bottom. You can get a shirt. Okay, let's go.
And go.
Sonia. Happy birthday.
I'm not ready. I'm gonna go this way.
Okay. So, lyrics.
Well, yeah, pull up the lyrics because I couldn't understand it.
Oh, did you see it?
No, because I wanted to watch what was going on. Every time I took my eyes away and then I glanced over, they were throwing themselves into the crowd and stuff, and I wanted to see that.
They've got a
you know
pretty crazy They got a pretty crazy fan base.
Yeah, because sometimes they'll how do you throw themselses in are you ready? They'll be like, they look like, are you ready? And then they just toss themselves. These people are like, whoa! I'm like, you gotta trust some people to do something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there it is. You're unflappable. Go for it.
Your unflappable conceptions, moralistic views, never open to criticism, your overpowering ruse. Oh my gosh, is this like another thing on religion? Or is this just any sort of hierarchy? People that think that they're better, never open to criticism. Promises of sanctuary and eternal bliss, with starry eyes and cash in hand, pledged to all the master plan. I mean, it promises sanctuary, so like a safe, good place. Eternal bliss, like everything's gonna be good, with starry eyes and cash in hand. Oh, pledged to all the master plan. Oh, it kind of reminds me of that group that they gave all their money to that church group thing. But so I guess the promises and the eternal bliss is what the group A is promising. And then group B is the ones that are they're all starry-eyed, they think it's going to be all great, and they're coming with cash in hand, ready to pledge everything.
Well, I just think that it's pretty straightforward. It's suffer the children, which is a line from the Bible.
Yeah.
Which is in the King James language, the word suffer meant allow.
Yeah, because the disciples were trying to stop
right.
the children from coming to Jesus. And then Jesus was like, no, let them come to me.
But of course, as the word evolved, suffer means
pain.
To suffer.
Yeah.
So it's an ironic use of the term because it's talking about how religion, makes people suffer. So your unflappable conceptions, moralistic views, never open to criticism.
Uh-huh.
Which is one of the main criticisms I think of. I think Sam Harris basically said, look, in science, if something is wrong, we can go back to the drawing board and change it. But religion is a fixed idea, and so they're not open to criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Now this was around long before Sam Harris because.
Well, yeah.
This was 1990. Sam
yeah.
Harris didn't blow up till about 5-8 years ago, but I think the concept's still the same.
Mm-hmm.
Promises of sanctuary and eternal bliss, that's heaven. With starry eyes and cash in hand, pledged to all the master plan. Just face the truth or fund the farce.
Oh my gosh.
So it's... to me, this is like a misunderstanding of the gospel that people are giving money so that they can secure their place in heaven. Mm-hmm. At least from a Protestant perspective, that's not the gospel.
Right.
It's not the gospel. At the same time, right now we're taking care of 3 kids overseas, and that's not free.
No.
They need, in order for the people down there, we're depending on those people to educate those kids, and we're not just getting them bread and such. They're getting education, school, and things like that, so that they're going to have. One of the kids was 12 when we pledged to him, and he was right on the line of getting picked up by the cartel, because by the time that they phase out of the orphanage, then they hit the streets. The only thing for them is the cartel. And my other friend, he actually went and adopted 2 girls as they were about to phase out, and those girls would have been picked up by the traffickers.
Right.
So all that is extremely expensive. I remember he had it wasn't a GoFundMe, it was something else, because it was, you can imagine, extremely expensive to fly over to Colombia, get those girls and all the other...
Sometimes it's just bribing people too to get to where you need to get to.
I can't share, but he had a very difficult time getting them...
I bet he did, yeah.
...on the ground here in America. So, it's this weird dichotomy with the church and how money operates, because on the one hand there was us down there in downtown working with the the downtown folks. There was a shelter that was a Christian shelter, and then there was an actual home that was taken. It was a halfway house. It was a Christian halfway house. So, I'm not saying that there are no secularists, but what I'm saying is I didn't see a lot of secularist organizations down there grinding for those people. I didn't see any secularist, food banks or whatever. I'm not saying that they're not there.
No, there
what
was
I'm
one.
Saying is
there was one for the kids.
There was one that was taken over from a Christian one. That one wasn't originally a secularist one. It was a Christian one.
The one where we almost went and bought that building they
had?
Oh, really? They used to be a Christian organization?
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying that they don't exist. Here's my point. My point is, a lot of that money came directly from us. Because we set up shop down there and we went to help those people, but it was extremely expensive. And of course, we didn't take any money at all from we didn't take a cent from anybody. We poured in thousands of dollars.
Yeah, the secular organization that was down there was completely funded by the government. We had no government funding.
Exactly. Like, they were funded by the government. We were just a bunch of kids in our 20s saying, we're going to go do something for downtown because these people are dying and nobody even knows, literally nobody knows what their names are.
Right.
And then our other friend, he was starting a church, and part of the church was they had a halfway house. So the guys would end up in the hospital, and they had a choice of going to jail or going to his halfway house. And so my point is, none of that stuff is free. So I'm kind of like at a point where I'm like, okay, what would you like us to do? Because on the one hand, you like the idea that there's a soup kitchen. None of that shit is free. Right.
I think that people don't realize that the money actually goes somewhere. I think that people get caught up with the big time pastors and stuff that will have, like, they've got their big jets, they've got that, and then they think, okay, that's what's happening across the board, when that's not what's happening across the board. There's lots of churches that are very poor because their money is going to take care of other things,
Well,
and everybody always thinks that because they're calling a church, that they should absolutely get the money that they're asking for. You have no idea how many people call a church or a place that looks like a church because they need some money for something, and it's like, everybody's in these extreme situations. It's not like, oh, I did my budget wrong, or it's like it's like the end of the world experiences, and everybody has all these. There's not that much money to go around for all these things.
Yeah, and of course there are crooked pastors who benefit off of people's. But I just feel like the stigma that comes with the church and money is just crazy to me, because it's like, it's undeniable that in any given city, there's some sort of homeless shelter or something that's started by Christians. That's this. Even Sam Harris will admit that.
Right.
Well, none of that's free.
Right.
And so even if you there's a difference between getting a tax write-off and being an organization that's completely funded by the government.
Oh,
so like the other guy that he was a secularist. He was a secularist. He wasn't a Christian at all. I mean, he was anti-Christian. That was obvious. But he had started this public whatever, but it was funded by the government.
Oh yeah, I thought you were saying it wasn't funded.
It wasn't.
No, it was.
He wasn't feeling any financial loss for that. Well,
no, he was getting paid.
Right, he was getting paid to be there. We, because we're a religious organization, we're not funded by the government, and yeah, we were tax exempt. Bless God, because we were spending thousands of dollars on this stuff.
I know.
And
renting the building, paying the insurance,
paying the
buying
oil,
the food, buying the oil. The oil was out.
The oil was
crazy.
The killer. Like, that's $1,000 a pop.
1,000. It was 2,000 a pop.
Well, I'm saying like one of us was paying like half of it by themselves.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like so I'm like,
it was no joke.
It's just it's a weird thing for me, because I'm like, okay, what world do you live in where you can do all this stuff for people and do it for free? So of course you have to collect money. Of course you have to pool your resources. Of course you have to do that. Are there Christian, that's what sparked the Protestant Reformation, because on the other side, it can get to people who don't have access to the Bible and don't have access to what the Bible says about how money relates to your salvation, which is there is no relationship other than, you being what's interesting about money with Christianity is that what Jesus and even the Old Testament tells you about money as far as your salvation goes is being a stingy person who ignores the poor will get you in trouble with God.
And just so everybody's aware, the Bible doesn't say that money is the root of all evil. Everybody keeps quoting this. I keep saying it all across Facebook. They're like, why do churches ask for money if it says money is the root of all... No, it's the love of money that is the root of all evil. And you can see how when people are obsessed and love their money more than other people, then they're going to make choices that will leave somebody in the ditch so that way they can have what they want.
Right. I think a more accurate criticism of Christianity, because this doesn't resonate with me as far as the money thing. It just doesn't. And probably...
Well, that's because of
some of it has to do with the fact that, you know, I never grew up in an environment where people were connecting giving money to the church as some sort of way to get into heaven.
No,
I never heard I never once heard a message like that at all.
Me neither.
What I will say a valid criticism would be how the Bible tells you to look out for the poor and be partial to the poor and how you deal with your money, and how evangelical right-wingers have treated the poor. Because we have despised the poor. We have, you know, it's a typical, oh, you want this girl to not have an abortion, but you
don't want to have any government programs
you won't
either.
spend a red penny,
right?
You know, for that. You got Christians that are against universal health care. You know, like that type of relationship to money is how people in the Old and New Testament got criticized. Both of them got criticized.
Well, I don't know the universal health care. I don't know that it's just black and white like that. Like, I don't know necessarily that all Christians that are against it because they don't want people that aren't working to be able to get help. I think a lot of it is because they've seen what happens in those programs. Like, remember that documentary we saw and stuff like that?
I think the vast majority... Now, I remember the documentary you're talking about. I think the vast majority of Christians who are against universal health care are not against it for those nuanced reasons. I think they're... And I'm watching what I'm seeing on Facebook, is... They're against it because well, they weren't fiscally responsible. I just got done talking to a guy. We were in a Christian...
Honestly, I've never heard anybody say that.
Oh,
you talk to more people than I do. I think that's crazy.
We were in this forum, and the guy was like, I mean...
No, I have heard people say that.
At what point are they responsible for their own whatever?
Right.
Like,
I remember there was a girl that said it.
Like, that is way... Like, that is a legitimate criticism that needs to happen, and I'm surprised in the hundreds of songs we listen to, people haven't jumped on that yet, because that is
true.
This stuff right here, like
but we don't listen to modern songs, honey. We always listen to the older ones. And this is kind of a more...
We've always been like that, though. American evangelicals have been horrible with the way they treat poor people. They've always despised poor people.
Yeah.
Always. It's always been, it's their fault. I'll pick myself up by my bootstraps and they can too.
I mean, I don't know.
I hate welfare.
It's not all of them.
No, we're talking about generalizations.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like that's not as, like... I think I've been surrounded by lots of people that cared very much for the poor, but maybe not. I don't know. I thought so.
Oh.
But now that I'm thinking, I'm like, wait, what did they do to actually change the situation for the poor? I don't think they did.
Bill Clinton was a Democrat, and he was running on cutting welfare and welfare reform.
Yeah.
Because he was trying to appeal to evangelicals are horrible. Who are the ones that are going out for the poor and saying that we need to hand over some of our cash for poor people? It's the secularists are saying.
Yeah. Yep.
The Christians are going, no, keep my money, and this is, and then they start whining about it. But this stuff right here, where it's like, you know, you're giving money so that you can get to heaven.
Yeah.
Especially in the modern world, but we don't believe that. Nobody's teaching that. There's give money and then God will bless you. You know, the prosperity stuff. But there isn't, you can buy your way into heaven. I'm sorry, it's not there. Mm-hmm. Most people who are giving money to a church are giving money to a church because the church is connected to some sort of charity or organization or something, and the pastor has a full-time job. And if you don't think that that's a full-time job, that's a full-time job. Wow. I'm not going to comment on it.
Yeah.
It's the average is like 5 years, and then most pastors are like, all right, I'm out of here. It's too much.
Really?
Yeah. Even with a full parsonage and all that, they're out of there. So I just think that you know.
I mean, that makes sense. I can understand that, but I've always seen some with some longevity. So.
Yeah, I'm very, very open to criticisms of Christianity, but like the money thing, I always feel like is a major miss whenever they bring that up, because nobody's exchanging money for heaven, not in the modern day anyway. I mean, you had that, Johann Tetzel with the purgatory stuff. But Martin Luther called that out. We already took care of that internally like 500 years ago.
Right. Yeah, and I think that
what in the world?
That there's some stuff like there's heavy criticism. Like if you think about like anything that we do requires money. Like if you go see a counselor, you're gonna have to pay. If you go to, if you try to get a self-help book, you're gonna have to pay.
Right.
If you go to the movies, you're gonna have to pay. And like when people go to church, like you're getting self-help for your spirit, you're getting self-help for your person. And so like I think that like when people go in there, like they get all offended when the plate goes around. And I understand, like I'm not even sure how I feel about the plate. I don't like it because I feel like it pressures people, but at the same time, for me, when I was going to church, I did want to give, like...
Well, we were in a church where they purposely didn't pass around a plate.
Well, yeah.
That was on purpose, for a bunch of reasons.
Yes. Yeah.
One reason was we didn't want any cash in the building because we were dealing with drug addicts who were very good people, but because the drug had control of them, would do things that they otherwise
so
wouldn't.
we didn't want to put them in that situation.
So we didn't want to put them in, but
when it's just like a regular church, and it's not like, in a situation like that, like it was convenient when that thing would come by because I always forget. And I wanted to give, but I would forget. So when it came by, I was like, oh yeah, it was like my reminder.
Right.
So it was convenient for me. But I don't know. You see what I'm saying? Well, I feel like you wouldn't see it that way.
I'm not a fan of the plate thing at all.
No, I mean like everything that we do, like if you want something or you believe in something, you put capital towards it. Like that's what people do.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably a bad analogy. Jesus says you were freely given, so you should freely give. Mm-hmm. So as far as like what we can give to people as the church in a given city, we should do it for free, which we were able to do. So like we were able to give away literally thousands of sandwiches, hundreds of jackets, hundreds of gloves. All that we were able to give them for free because other people paid to get that stuff.
Right.
That's what you don't realize. Like if you give stuff away for nothing is free. Somebody paid for it. Mm-hmm. So we were able to do thousands of I don't know. I couldn't even itemize it, but it was literally thousands of acts of kindness, but none of them were free. Mm-hmm. I mean, shoot, we had one time where it was like a winter blast or whatever. It was like 5 below, and we just kept the building out open literally all night because it was the only spot where people could go. I know. And that we burnt. We went through 2-3 days of oil in one night. Mm-hmm. Because A, it was so cold, and B, we had to keep so many people
everybody
warm.
was smokers, so they were in and out. The door was freaking constantly open.
Yeah, it was almost like outside. But all that costs money.
Right.
And you had people starting out with small families and stuff. And they were like, all right,
pitching in together though.
Okay.
It was fun though.
It was nerve-wracking. It was fun. And it made you feel like, okay, I'm not a slave to the dollar.
Oh, we did, yeah, for sure.
You felt the sort of freedom, but you also felt like you could immediately see what you were doing. Like when you pay taxes and stuff like that, and it helps the road or something like that, because I don't know if you remember, but the road by Bates College was a disaster. It used to be, now it's better. Mm-hmm. And so like I helped with that. I feel good about that, but at the same time I'm like,
I never felt good about it.
Well, I didn't really see it happen, and it's you don't get that instant gratification. But when you do it that way, like it's instant. There was no oil, now there's oil. There was, we're out of bread. Now there's a whole table full of bread. Yeah. And now look at all these sandwiches, and you got that instant gratification that you could see it. Whereas if you're getting it from taxes, you're still doing your part, but you just, it's just hard to tell, Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of the...
I remember one time, I went to the store, it was at the end of the season, it was like we were rolling into summer. and like there was an entire bin of gloves and scarves and hats, and they were all on clearance for like 25 cents a piece.
Yeah. I
And
remember
I got
that.
like this huge bag of them. I was so excited because like it probably, I don't know.
It is
probably-
exciting though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It probably cost me like, I don't know, like 20 or 30 bucks. But I had like this huge bag of stuff that like, that was going to be great for, it was rolling into summer. They didn't want to have that huge bin at their store anymore. So, and then it was so fun, like the following, I had actually forgotten about it by the time fall rolled around. And then the girl that was storing it in her closet was like, hey, when do you want me to bring those things by? Because it's getting pretty cold. I'm like, oh my gosh, bring them down. And like bringing that stuff out, it was like, when you saw somebody come in looking all cold and stuff, and then you saw them leave with like a scarf and a hat and some gloves, like, oh, it was such a good feeling.
Well, yeah, because they were just going in there initially just to warm up, and then you could have them leave with something that was really tangible.
Mm-hmm. And I loved cooking. Like, I didn't always love cooking for them. Like, sometimes I felt like a grouch about it, you know?
Yeah.
But there was times... It was a
hard.
lot. It was all
hard.
the time, yeah.
And it was a very thankless job because we didn't put any sort of contingencies to when you could get a service from us. Mm-hmm. So, like, there was no, like, oh, you have to do this to get a sandwich, you have to do this to get a Coke. Like, you could say, screw the Bible, I don't care. I don't know. As long as they were, like, respectful to other people, they could do whatever they want. So it was a thankless job because... You know, the vast majority of them, they don't care about Christianity. They just care about, you know, getting a warm place and getting a sandwich.
But I think a lot of them thanked me when I would pass the sandwich to them.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But, like, you know how I am with cooking? Like, I want it to be excellent.
Perfect, yeah.
Like, I don't want to burn that egg. I don't want to... Unless they say they wanted it burned. But, like, cooking the stuff for them and passing them... Yeah, cooking the sandwich and passing them, like, an excellent sandwich when you knew, like, you know...
And then there were times when we would be able to splurge and we're like, yo, we're going to, like, really hook them. Remember we did, like...
Sunday meals.
That Sunday meal
Family
thing?
dinner.
And it was, like... We went crazy one time and they got hooked up. They had, like, French toast and meme soup and grilled cheese, which, again, we're broke kids. But that was... People were, like, blown away by that. And then we do the Thanksgiving thing. Thanksgiving was crazy.
That makes me miss it a lot.
So it's like... None of that shit was free.
No, it wasn't.
I'm still a nut. All right. No, I'm not. And honestly, it was cheap. It was a cheap price to pay compared to being able to interact with other human beings.
Yeah.
Whether or not they follow your whatever, like you were able to intersect with another human being in that moment and be with them.
Yeah.
And that
it was like this channel, like. It completely different, obviously, but like this channel, you know how people come on and they're like, oh, like I like how open-minded you guys, you're not trying to shove your religion down my throat and stuff like that. It was like that, only you were like face to face with us and we were giving you sandwiches instead of music reviews.
Right.
You know, so then people were like there, and so it was kind of like people got the feel of, oh, okay, well this is a different type of religion where it's not being shoved in my face.
Right. And it was also, you know, not to use an overused word, a safe place for people. Because we wouldn't allow
they said it a lot.
Yeah, we wouldn't allow them to hurt each other. We wouldn't allow them to
gossip about each other.
We wouldn't even let them gossip about it, talk about each other behind each other. And we wouldn't like automatically kick you out if you were.
No. We would just...
But we would talk to you. I mean, there's some people that we eventually had to say, you can't come back here because they were just violent people.
Yeah. At first, people were like, what the heck is this? Like, having to, like, not talk bad about other people there. You know what I mean? But then after a while, they were like, I actually like coming here because there's no drama.
They knew.
I'm like, because the city is so small, and then everybody was talking about everybody, and then so finally, like, have a place where you can be like, okay, we're not gonna talk about...
It was cool.
Yeah.
So, that's what I think. So, like, my experience...
Where did those futons come from?
My experience was...
Did you buy those?
Somebody bought them,
Would have been nice to take one of them when the whole thing was over. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Dave.
I didn't know the whole thing was over.
That's true.
So.
It would have been nice to have been told.
I wouldn't have taken them anyway.
Yeah, really.
Somebody else can use it. But, yeah, so the money thing is kind of like I don't know, it's a weird thing. Because nobody believes that you're...
Yeah.
Jesus' death and resurrection that gets you to heaven, not money.
Right.
So, that is interesting though. Your moralistic views never open to criticism. I'm not sure I'm not sure. First of all, I'm not sure what they mean by criticism. Are you saying that they're never open to criticism in the sense that if a person criticizes Christian morality that we won't listen to them? Or they're not open to criticism as in we wouldn't think about it? Like if I were to say, you know, robbing banks is always wrong. Mm-hmm. This is an eternal decree. Robbing banks is always wrong. Mm-hmm. And if a person said, oh, that's bad because it's never open to criticism. It's like, well, I mean, you can criticize it, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to believe that robbing banks is always wrong.
No, I don't think that's what they mean. You know how you were talking to that guy the other day? And he said, so what? It's just wrong because your God says it's wrong? Like, that's just what makes it wrong?
Yep, it's true.
I think that's what they mean.
Yeah, but then okay, so let's take God out of the equation. So why is something wrong? Because you said so?
Well, no, I get it.
At the end of the day, we all have a basis for why something is right or wrong.
Yeah, I get that. But, like, I think that's what they mean. Like, the whole, like, no, the buck stops here. God says it's wrong, so.
Well, the buck stops somewhere.
Yeah.
I just think that, like, I don't understand some of these criticisms. I don't understand. Like, are all of our morality supposed to be open to criticism? Are we all supposed to? Is every single moral axiom open for change 100 years from now? Like, do we understand the implications of what that means? Everything.
No.
Like, everything. So you're saying everything that's moral now or immoral now could possibly be moral in the future once we evolve. I think that there are certain things where we would say, I don't, like for example, female genital mutilation. Yeah. I don't give a damn what culture says what. It's wrong, period.
Yeah.
You can come to me with the best argument for female genital mutilation. I'll tell you right now, I will say, no, that's wrong. Mm-hmm. This thing over there, and I'm not going to name the country, where you've got like these, 5-6-year-old girls that are bred for prostitution over there in these temples. That's wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm never going to say, okay, there might be a situation in which breeding girls for prostitution is a legitimate. Like, what are you talking about? Like, so I think for me, it's like all of us have certain morals that are not open for interpretation ever. Mm-hmm. That we just assume. But then there's another category of morality where we're like, we're situational. And I think the issue is, with Christianity, there's a lot more in the black and white category than in the gray category, and they're upset about that.
Yeah.
Because everybody has a certain core group of morals that are unquestioned. Mm-hmm. Period.
Yeah.
It's like these people that complain about intolerance. But then they won't tolerate somebody else's intolerance. Well, yeah, okay, well, there's your, everybody has it.
Right, yeah.
So I think what they're saying is you have too many in the black and white category. There's some from the black and white category that you should put in the gray category. And then I ask, okay, well, who's the arbiter of that? Who determines how many is in the black and white, how many is in the gray? You? It still comes down to...
Yeah.
So, like, I get that criticism, but I do think that... there are moral positions that Christians take that are open to criticism. And what I mean by that is to say, if you look at slavery, for example, there were lots of Christians that were co-signing slavery. Mm-hmm. And then they had biblical texts to back it up. And so that should have been open to criticism.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is not that the Bible should be open to criticism in the sense that, because I'm a Christian, I believe the Bible is the Word of God. Mm-hmm. But your interpretation and application should be open to criticism. Mm-hmm. That I think is a valid. I think it's a valid criticism about Christians, is that they assume that their interpretation of what God actually wants is the undisputed truth. And God forbid that an atheist would say, well, you're wrong about that.
Right.
Because I think right now, the best prophetic voice to speak to American evangelicalism are secularists. That's a fact, especially the secularists that
we're listen.
I've listened. I've been changed by the secularist voices that we've been around for the last almost year.
Yeah.
I think that
I feel like we have a special case to be able to.
I wouldn't be as arrogant as to say that we're like a special case.
I didn't
of
say
Christians.
we. I said we're in a special case where we're surrounded by people who love us and we love them, and they're saying things to us that's easier to hear. You know, when you just see the secular stuff, like you see like the different stuff, like the woman crying after, you know, I don't know if Trump got in. Like when you see different things like that, like it makes certain camps be like, oh, I'm just gonna disregard everything that you have to say. I'm saying we're in a special situation in which we're surrounded by people that have reasonable conversation with us that makes it easier to hear.
Yeah, but I think the vast majority of secularists, when they criticize American Christianity in particular, are extremely reasonable. The vast majority of them are not like that screaming woman from the Middle America commercial.
I'm not saying the vast majority of them are that screaming woman. I'm saying that people like that screaming woman make it so that way they're disregarded.
No.
How many Christian people are you around, or that have been around, that have been open to hearing what a secularist has to say about?
Well, what I'm saying is that I don't pin that on the screaming lady. That's on us because we're too arrogant to listen to the secularists, because we believe that we're somehow morally superior to them, so what the hell could they tell us about how to be a good Christian? There's a lot of shit that you can learn about being Christ-like from an atheist or a secularist. A lot.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of our Christians are like, who are you to tell me anything? Or who are you to criticize my interpretation or application of the Bible or whatever? And of course, a lot of secularists don't have the language to say, I think you're misinterpreting and misapplying that. They're just saying, well, if that's what it says, then you're wrong. And instead of going, okay, wait a second, well, what is he actually saying? We're getting all crazy about, you know, whatever. You can't tell. What do you know? You're a pagan, or you're. I heard a guy. I'm in this group where, you know, atheists and Christians go back and forth, and the guy basically said, "What the hell do you know? You're an atheist." It's like, okay, they can't tell us a damn thing. They got a lot to tell us, and we don't listen. So from that perspective, I agree. Like we're not open to moral criticisms by atheists or secularists. Now, whether or not they have an objective standard by which they can measure morality, I think is a separate point, and that's a separate conversation. And if I'm engaging in that discussion, I'd say, well, obviously, I don't think they do. But if they're talking about my worldview and saying, are you living consistent with the high standard that Jesus tells you to live, and for them to say no, and here's how. I shot a video yesterday about something, and the guy was like, okay, you know, you were right about this and that. I didn't have my stuff. But you're a jerk, he basically said. So I had to shoot a video and say, you know what? The guy's right. I should have been like that, you know, da-da-da-da. And like, you have to be able to learn from people.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, but of course it cuts both ways, and that's why I took the time to talk about the money thing. It's not necessarily because I wanted to defend Christianity, but it's more of like trying to get people to see, well, wait a second, there's another side here. And for people, because people know us long enough to know that we did something in our area downtown, and we've never really sat and actually broke down the financial costs of what it took to do that thing.
Yeah.
Because people don't think about that.
Right.
So I spent some time on that because I really feel like our atheist friends would listen to us. But on the other hand, I think we don't do that very much. And so it kind of like, I think a lot of songs like this feels like just a communication breakdown where people are not communicating. Because I'm pretty sure you take 10 secularists and say, okay, you got a downtown community and you're not taking one penny from the government.
Yep.
How do you get services, housing, food, heat?
Yeah.
How do you rent? How do you do that? And I believe 9 out of 10 of those guys would say, oh, well, yeah, for sure. And I believe 8 out of 10 of them would give you the $5 that's in their pocket if they know that you're really doing that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
So that's why I wanted to spend some time and talk about how Christianity relates to money, because it's a common criticism, and I thought it was important to have that conversation. But yeah, they definitely got their point across for sure. What do you give it?
I'm not sure.
This is a 8.8 for me.
I was leaning on an 8.5.
Very heavy. Very, very heavy. I haven't heard like an old school thrashy heavy song in a while because we've been like expanding our footprint. So I was very, very happy about that. So it was extremely heavy and I was happy about that. The lyrics were, okay. What?
Just you saying those lyrics are okay.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. I never thought of that before. So it's an 8.8 for me. What do you got?
8.5.
All right. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone. Happy B-Days on you.